Hi Neil, and welcome to ParaTalk. Now, before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I think it might be a good thing to let the ParaTalk listeners know who you are, why you're here, and what got you interested in all things weird.
Thank you very much, Reese, for having me. Yes, my name's Neil Armstrong. You've heard of me. Everyone's heard of me, whether they know me or not. I think, for me, I've been interested in paranormal and interesting stuff. For me, it's kind of the unexplained in whatever form it comes in is really interesting. And I've had it all my life. I love history, and I love sci-fi, and I love, all of that sort of content. You get interested in what else might be floating around out there, and then what else might have come to Earth, and then, it's a natural progression to then get into ghosts and other unexplained stuff. As a person and as a consumer, as a kid, I was always in the library looking at this stuff or reading books about it. That probably shaped my later career because I became a writer from quite an early age, when I started to professionally write. And then I got into the paranormal a bit more because I started writing about it. There was a magazine which I was launch editor of because the guy whose idea it was a guy called Richard Forsyth, and he'd never edited a magazine before. So I was put in to show him the ropes, and that was called Encounters. That was by a company called Paragon Publishing in the mid-90s, and that was very successful. So that was kind of tying in my interest in the paranormal and the supernatural and aliens and anything unexplained with my writing. And pretty much that's what I've done since. I've been in publishing for 30 odd years, and I've done all sorts of different magazines, from computer magazines to general interest and celebrity and Hollywood magazines and all the rest of it. But during all of that time, I've had a massive interest in the unknown, and that's kind of where my background is. And when I thought of the marketplace and looking at it down at WH Smith, I couldn't see anything that I wanted to buy that was talking about some of this stuff, apart from 40 Times and Haunted magazines, which are both great. So I thought, let's have a look and bring out our own magazine for the world of the unknown.
Before we run ahead, when you put in a magazine together and you're putting something like this together, which is very sort of paranormal, how do you get stories? I mean, because in the world of the internet, everyone's talking about everything. How do you go out there and think, well, we need something that people are going to want to buy? What's the mechanism for that?
There's two or three elements to it. One is when I'm putting together the sorts of things that I would like to have in the magazine, I'm thinking about the sorts of things I'd like to read about. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. In our next issue of Enigmazine that's out on, I think it's March 20th in WH Smith and Tesco's and all that, we've got a feature on Cannock Chase, which is a place in Staffordshire, right? It's a bit of a paranormal hotspot, but I didn't really know a lot about it. And I read something about, I think it was about a dog man that's there. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I saw something else about potential UFO stuff there. I commissioned an article about Cannock Chase as a paranormal hotspot because I'd like to read about it and I'd like to find out about it. The same with, we've got something about unexplained finds, UFOs in this next issue. So things that have been left archaeologically that we don't understand, that are out of context. We've got an article on the shadow timeline, which is about why we might all be living in an alternative timeline to the one that we should be on, and why and how and all the rest of it. I find these things fascinating. I'm not saying that if it goes in the magazine, I believe in it, but and some of the things I do, and some of the things I'm open-minded to still. But what I do want in the magazine is just interesting stuff about unknown and subjects that you don't read about in any other magazine. And to take your point about online, everybody can read about these things there, but there's such a wealth of information and stuff about every paranormal subject that you can think of out there that it's difficult to know where to start. So what I've wanted to do with the magazine is have start points for people, and then they can go off and find out more information about the particular area that they like. So it's like an entry into the paranormal for those people that are just coming interested in it. And for those people that are already interested in it, it's a reference piece which is a little bit more considered and serious than what could just be randomly stumbled across on the internet. And then for people who are experts, we say, if we don't know what we're talking about, come and write with us, for us, and tell everybody else what you know.
Is the magazine, would you say it's more of a kind of a communal thing where each month you have different writers, or do you have kind of a core team of people that always contribute?
What we've got with Enigmazine is both of those things. So we've got some people involved in the writing side that I've worked with for many years. Now, some of them are not known as supernatural or paranormal writers, but they are interested. But what they are good, they're good writers and they're good jobbing journalists. So that's one part of it. But the real element to the magazine that I want to promote is readers getting in touch with their stories, readers' stories. And we've got, for the first issue, we engaged with people via forums and people that I know and stuff like that to get the readers' stories for the first one. And as the first issue came out, we're asking people to come and tell us their stories, and we've been inundated with really good stories, probably enough to fill another few issues of readers' stories coming up. So the reaction to it's been really good, and what we want is to create a space where people can read about a variety of paranormal, supernatural, alien and unknown subjects, but can also contribute to the content, can tell their own story, and can read other people's stories. So therefore, you're right, it's got a community, a big community element to it. Forums aren't as popular or as busy as they used to be. And the other thing with lots of things online is what you'll get is someone that disagrees, and they've got the platform to say why they disagree straight away. And often I think it becomes quite a negative place with lots of different opinions, whereas a magazine, you can read the article, you can consider it, then make up your mind and go and complain to people online about it afterwards.
When you were saying that, you were describing it, I was thinking back to when I was a wee boy, and I would buy my magazine, and I would always turn to the editor section and the letter section where people would write in about stuff that they'd read in the previous month's magazine. If they disagreed with something about a story, they would, I'm writing to correct you or whatever. And I always found that engaging. I always found that fascinating that there were other people reading this magazine and they also had an opinion. That's something, I think, with the internet, don't you think that it's kind of lost a little bit now?
Yeah, I think it was a great place. I mean, I've been online since 1988 when I was 16, very early adopter in terms of the kind of modern internet. Back then, it was kind of all about people power, really. There was no corporate stuff on there. It's gone kind of full circle, and social media has now become kind of an unsocial media in a way. It's too easy to be critical and jump down someone's throat. It gets all quite nasty quite quickly. It's probably because it's kind of a bit more anonymous. I don't think there's a need for it. If you disagree with somebody, it doesn't mean that they're wrong and you're right. It means that you've both got an opinion about something, and there's no proof about any of this stuff, really. Talking to somebody the other day that was saying, well, really, there's no proof for a lot of scientific stuff. A scientist or a skeptic might say, well, prove that ghosts exist. I might say, well, prove that science is right first. We don't know. There is an unknown element to all of this stuff. People have experiences. And if they can come forward and talk about their experiences in a safe place like a magazine without loads of people calling you names and calling you a liar, etc., then they can get that off their chest. Because the one thing I absolutely believe is that these stories are real and true. These people aren't making it up. People are having these experiences. What we don't understand is what they are and why they are existing and why they're having those experiences, but they're definitely having them. If you bear on the side and say that they're telling the truth, we don't know why they're having these experiences. That's the interesting bit. And we need to find out more and read other people's stories and engage with people in a more positive way. And we might get some answers sometime.
Do you plan in the future, hopefully when it gets a bit warmer, to do maybe some on-site investigations that you can do into like a sort of a monthly special?
Absolutely. We've got loads of plans, to be fair. We want to do we're calling them campfires at night, where we can tell stories and people can share their stories, and then we can go and do maybe a live investigation or something like that. We want to organise and get involved in events as well. I mean, we're very much wanting to go to the Whitby Gothic Festival in the summer, for instance. And I know that we're planning on attendance at Comic-Cons and stuff like that, just as a start to that. But then we really want to organise some events and get people together as we grow our subscriber base. And that's the surprising thing so far to me. So as we speak, the first issue of Enigmazine is still on sale, and then the second issue will supersede it on the 20th of March, so in another couple of weeks. I'm amazed, I'm flabbergasted by the amount of people who have subscribed. So these are people who have grabbed the first issue, liked what they've seen, thought, I want some more of this. So they get the concept, and they've come on to the website, and they've paid a year's subscription. They get a free t-shirt and a discount, and it goes straight to their door, so they don't have to bother trying to find it. It's fantastic, the amount of people that have done that. And I feel fairly privileged that people have trusted us, having just seen one issue, with the way that we're going, and they like the kind of idea of finding out about a broad church of stuff, rather than just be interested in hauntings or just be interested in the the Fortean type of subjects. We can go wider than that and be and just investigate all of the unknown, some unknown crime stories, unsolved crime, and also there's some interesting fiction based on fact that's coming out in that sort of area as well. So we want to explore all of that stuff, because I believe it of interest to the readers that aren't just a paranormal crowd.
How difficult is it to get your magazine into real life retailers in this day and age? Is it like a mammoth task, or do they just easily just take you on board?
No, it's tricky. You have to come up with the concept, and then they'll decide whether they want to stock it. Luckily enough, because I've got a background in publishing for all of these years, and I've done magazines and worked on magazines for the newsstand, I've still got an okay reputation in that industry. So it was easy enough to reach out to a distributor that I've had in the past and worked with in the past, and then they have connections with the retailers. So it's easier for us to put that together. And it was nice, one of the buyers essentially remembers what we used to do with Encounters and remembers some of the other stuff that I've done for the newsstand, and was kind of open to it.
Do you feel that podcasting and the internet, like YouTube and stuff, plays a kind of a critical role in getting something like this out there to people who might be looking for it?
Yes, I think so, because the people in that area have got a following, have got an audience which is tapping into their interest. Those are the same guys that might be interested in our magazine. So definitely we're also investigating doing our own podcast and adding to some of the brilliant content that's already out there. But what we want to do is rather than be in competition, we want to work with people. We want to work with people who already do some great content and essentially cross-promote podcasts, the magazine, websites, forums, some of the really good events that are going on, and kind of cross-pollinate it all online. And just about awareness. If people are aware that certain podcasts exist, they'll go and listen to them. If they're aware that there's a magazine about their interests, they'll be into that. So I think it's about kind of reaching out and saying, here we are, and readers can help to evolve the sorts of things that we cover in the future, because it is a community and we want to be part of that community.
When you look at the way that the magazine has evolved to now and how much interest it's gathered, where do you see it in maybe a year's time?
Again, there's a few aspects to that. One is books. We've got I've written a book about time slips, and I've written one about ghosts, which have published. You can get them from the website or Amazon. Got another book coming out in April about aliens. We want to reach out and put things out into different parts of the world. So currently we're a UK-based magazine for sale on the UK newsstand. There is a potential for getting Enigmazine out into different parts of the world. We have been approached by a potential US publisher who might be interested in putting it out there, and also kind of pick up on the sorts of things that people want to read. So we're inviting readers not just to contribute with their stories, but also things that they would like to look at and read about. And another example of that is I've had an email the other day from somebody who was interested to know whether we would be covering dinosaurs as a subject, and I thought to myself, well, I don't know. Then I looked into the whole alternative dinosaur scene and all of the other explanations for dinosaurs and all the theories and stuff like that. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe that's something we will cover although the future of the magazine will always have, in every edition, there'll always be something alien, something ghosty, in all of its different zoology, and there'll be things to do with mind power and time travel and all of those sorts of subjects. We also want to reach out to broader subjects, as I say, like unsolved crime, some other elements of more unusual occultist stuff and supernatural stuff, so that it can grow month on month. I want people to kind of look forward to the next issue coming out.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to thank you very much, Neil, for coming on and joining me for this episode of ParaTalk. Of course, to the listeners, thanks for listening and thanks for staying with us. But all of Neil's info is going to be in the show notes anyway. And obviously, I would highly recommend to go and check out Enigmazine. Have you got any final words before we wrap up this episode, Neil?
Feedback, and anyone that wants to get involved. We have got some writers. We would like to bring in some other writers and give other people opportunities. If there's something that you're interested in and there's something that you'd like to read about, we're happy to take suggestions. We've got a dedicated email address, which is readers@enigmazine.com for readers' stories, suggestions, feedback, constructive criticism, any of that. And we do reply to all of these, all of the messages that we get. Sometimes if it's a reader's story, or we can tradition, but also, who knows, we're having discussions with some people right now and about engaging them for some different articles for the future. So of which there'll be payment involved. So we are completely open to the community as it exists. Come forward and contact us.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Neil, and thanks to everyone for listening. Remember, check out Enigmazine, and until the next episode, thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.